What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with another acid-techno tune. And as you can see, this one comes from the full album from Chris Liberator and Sterling Moss. Big shout out to both of them, especially Chris, with whom I had a very nice chat recently. And yes, we are going to listen to one of their tracks from Culture of Acid, a double LP album that is, I think, maybe not the culmination. I hope they have many more releases to go in their collaborations, but yes, it feels like it's been a long time coming. They started collaborating in the late 2000s. I believe We're Bored was one of the first tracks. Acid Wah Wah Wah, one of my favorite tunes, was in the early days. And in the 2010s, they were incredibly prolific, putting out all sorts of releases, not only on Stay It Forever, but on a number of associated labels and doing remixes for other labels and so on. Early 2020s, it felt like Chris was doing a lot of tracks with Sam DFL. So I remember commenting on some release, and maybe even in a reaction here, that they haven't been collaborating, Chris and Sterling, quite as much lately, but I'm still looking forward to more from them. And then what do you know, they come out with a full album. So we're going to listen to a tune called 303 Uprising, and as you can see, both records on this album have this blue splattered, I don't know if it's called splattered, I think there's like a different name for it, but yeah, they have a colored vinyl, and they both have these, classic acid smiley, the symbol of the acid scene going all the way back to the Acid House days. But yes, so far, this is my favorite tune on this release, and it's not on record 1, it's on record 2, so give me a moment here. But yeah, it's called 303 Uprising. Luca, you make this difficult. You're adorable, but you do make things a bit difficult. And yeah, the album overall, I'd say it's got some tracks with some real kind of wicked acid techno stylings. It also has a couple tracks that are more in what I would call the straightaway techno mode. And yeah, so it's got some variety, and I think even, in the description on the Stay It Forever website, it essentially said as much, that it tries to explore aspects of the acid techno and techno scenes as they've existed, and that have created this culture of acid over the last few decades, and since they began collaborating together specifically. But yeah, here we go. This is 303 Uprising. Let's say this or that side. I think it's that side. This is 303 Uprising from Chris Liberator and Sterling Moss on their Culture of Acid double LP album, which was released this year, I think, like early to mid-February. so good. It's like incredibly produced. There's an epic like emotional quality even as it's chugging and charging away. And in that regard, the real kind of gritty acid engine at the base of the track is the key ingredient, of course. I do also love that sample. I wonder where it comes from. It could be from a film, and maybe even the dramatic manner of presentation would suggest that it is, but I'd also equally believe it comes from an actual speech that, a philosopher or, a political thinker has given, because it really does have some wise observations that oftentimes, the status quo is taken as inevitable or as if it's always been here, as if it's been eternal. And as a historian, I would tell you, the forms of civilization and governance have been varied and divergent over the course of recorded human history, never mind going back to prehistory. And again, there are forms of organization and society and politics that are at the very best beneficial only to a very small minority, and which essentially serve to keep others in place, to keep them distracted, and to keep them from joining together to find alternative, more peaceful, and more egalitarian modes of human existence. And so in that regard, I really like some of the lines and the way that, they're given some echoed quality, which gives them a bit more drama. And yeah, the sample is very, very well chosen, and I'm curious about its source. But yeah, I do like how in the back half especially, there's these like chord progressions and overall ambience or atmosphere that make it more than just a dance floor fist pumping acid banger. Now it is that at the same time, which is in part why I think it's so impressive. But yeah, I feel kind of inspired and like rising up along with others who are like-minded and at least willing to put in the effort to find more fair and sustainable modes of human governance, society, civilization, and culture. And in that regard, the culture of acid could perhaps play a leading role in that, at least among those who are keen not to just allow the haves to get richer, the have-nots to be more oppressed, and so on. So yeah, I think it's very much indicative of the underground acid ethos, which, I've talked to Chris about that before. One of the things that I've always found about acid music in general, and Stay Up Forever and their associated artists and labels more specifically, is that they very much exude and carry on that banner and have never allowed acid-techno to become sort of a parody of itself or whatever, even when like a lot of acid tunes do make cheeky self-references to the scene and to acid music and so on. So it's like they manage to be amusing, inspiring, and absolutely rocking all at the same time. And I think you can find all of that in this tune. Maybe it's not so cheeky or, comedic as some acid-techno samples and tracks can be, but it is absolutely a rocker and inspiring at the same time. So, as I said, as of this moment, this is my favorite tune on the album, but there's many that I would like to talk about in this reaction form, and you will be seeing, or rather hearing, some of these tracks in my coming mixes, both audio only and video here on the channel. So, let me know what you think, and from Luca, the Acid Cat, and I, we will see you next time. Peace.